Limoni stood still at first, eyes darting around the pristine hotel room like a lost child in a palace. The room was softly lit, casting golden reflections on the polished floor. Ironsi sat on the edge of the plush bed, his arms crossed, watching her with a mixture of cold curiosity and painful familiarity. I said, "What's your mission, Limoni?" His voice was flat, controlled, but inside, his heart was tight with memory. For what felt like an eternity, she said nothing, just stood there with her fingers trembling. And then, like the burst of a dam, Limoni collapsed onto the glass coffee table, buried her face in her palms, and began to sob. Deep, choking sobs. Tears poured like she had been holding them for years. Her body shook so violently, the sound echoed through the hallway, catching the attention of the security detail stationed downstairs. Within moments, there was a soft knock, followed by the door cracking open cautiously. "Sir!" It was one of the security officers, brows furrowed with concern. "We heard. Is everything all right?" Ironsi turned toward the door, then looked at Limoni curled up in anguish. "Yes. Please step out," he said calmly. "The situation is not beyond control." They nodded reluctantly. "We'll be right outside. Just call us if there's any issue." The door shut quietly behind them. He turned back to Limoni. The girl who once shattered his world now sat before him, a ruin of her former self. Her elegant makeup was now a trail of rivers on her face. The dress she wore, though beautiful, looked out of place, like a crown on a mourning widow. "Why are you here, Limoni?" His voice was softer now, but still guarded. She looked up at him, eyes swollen, nose red. "Because I made the biggest mistake of my life." Ironsi raised an eyebrow. "Mistake?" "I was a fool, Ironsi." She sniffled. "I thought Loeritas could give me the life I deserved. But he used me. He used me like an ATM with emotions. I left gold for glitter." She paused to catch her breath, then continued, her voice cracking. "The wedding, the mansion, the lifestyle, it's all built on Iralia's sweat. And now that the truth is out, Loeritas doesn't want me anymore. He said I'm a liability." Ironsi exhaled slowly, his heart beating in strange, uneven rhythms. He was trying not to feel pity, not to be moved. Limoni slowly rose from the couch, walked toward him and knelt. "I'm not here to beg to return," she whispered. "I know I don't deserve you, but I just needed to say sorry. I needed to feel forgiveness from the one person I wronged the most. I can't sleep, I can't breathe, I can't eat without hating myself." She looked up at him. "I'm not asking for your heart again. I know it's with her now. That beautiful, earlier. She's everything I wasn't." The room grew still again. Even the ticking of the wall clock seemed to pause. Ironsi looked down at her, his eyes heavy. He remembered the days he would have died for her. But those days were buried, deep and cold. "I forgave you the moment I let you go, Limoni," he said finally. "But this chapter ended the day you walked away." Limoni closed her eyes, the words hitting her like waves. She didn't protest. She didn't argue. She just knelt there, quiet, broken. Ironsi stood still, arms folded across his chest, leaning lightly against the marbled pillar by the window. His eyes, calm but searching, bore into the shaking figure of Limoni still kneeling in front of him. Her tears had slowed, but her breathing was uneven. "I've heard enough of apologies," he said, voice low, resolute. "But what I want to know is, what actually happened? How did we get here, Limoni? Tell me everything. I want to hear it all, from the beginning." There was a pause, a silence so thick, it nearly choked the air. Then, Limoni exhaled deeply, slowly, like someone preparing for open-heart surgery without anesthesia. Her voice was hoarse but determined. "Ironsi, Loeritas deceived me." She swallowed hard, eyes fixed on the glistening floor beneath her knees. He found me when I was still frustrated by our situation. You remember that time? When we could barely eat. When you had to sell your only decent shirt just so we could pay rent. When people mocked me for staying with a man who had nothing to offer except dreams and prayers. I was weak. Ironzi. I hated being the woman people pitied. Her eyes glistened again, but this time she didn't look away. Then Laurentis came along. With his suits, his cars, his confidence. The man smelled like money. He said he admired my patience and beauty. Said a woman like me should never have to suffer. That I deserved the best and he could give it to me. If only I'd stop dragging myself through a relationship with a man who didn't even have a house to his name. She looked up, voice trembling now. He said you were holding me back. Ironzi's fists clenched behind his folded arms, but he said nothing. He showed me his bank alerts. Took me out. Bought me things. Things I never had. Shoes. Bags. Phones. Things that made me feel seen. Wanted. For once, I wasn't the struggling girlfriend of a beggar. I was a queen in a man's palace. Or so I thought. Her lips quivered as she continued. He never told me about Iralia. He never mentioned her. Not even once. If he had, maybe I would have thought twice. He said everything he had, he worked for, that the houses, the properties, the business, were fruits of his hustle. He wore confidence like a second skin. He made me feel like he owned the world. She sniffled. Then one day, I saw them together, Iralia and him, in one of those expensive restaurants on the island. She looked like royalty, Ironzi. Her presence silenced the room. I thought maybe she was a business partner, or an investor. Limoni shook her head bitterly. When I asked him, he laughed. He said, "Oh, she's just an old flame. She dropped me years ago when I was broke. Now she's trying to come back." And like a fool, I believed him. Her voice cracked as she leaned slightly forward. He said the only way to make her leave him alone for good was to get married. Once she knows I'm married, she'll move on, he told me. No woman wants to chase a married man with a pregnant wife. That's how he baited me. That's how he made me say yes to a rushed wedding. Her hands trembled. He was quick, Ironzi. Too quick. I was pregnant before I even realized it. I asked him to wait, to slow down. But he insisted. Said he wanted to protect me. That he wanted to marry me before the bump showed, so no one would say we had a child out of wedlock. I thought he was doing the honorable thing. Limoni let out a bitter laugh. What I didn't know was that he was protecting his secrets. Not me. She looked up again, her eyes like open wounds. It was after the wedding, after I had moved into the mansion, that I started seeing things. The documents. The paperwork. Everything had her name on it. Iralia Z. Ngala. Even the driver called her madam when she wasn't around. A long pause. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I confronted him. He told me not to worry. That yes, the properties were once hers. But she gave them up when they parted ways. He said it was complicated. That I shouldn't ask too many questions. But deep down, I knew he was lying. It all began to unravel slowly. She rubbed her palms together like someone trying to keep warm. I was never his queen, Ironzi. I was just a pawn. Her head bowed low, her body heavy with shame. You know what hurts the most? She asked quietly. He never even gave me anything real. Not even love. Just jewelry I couldn't wear. Because of you. Lies I swallowed, because of desperation. He promised me a future, but delivered only shadows. Everything I thought he owned, belonged to her. She looked up again. You may not have had money, Ironzi, but you were real. You gave me loyalty. You gave me prayers. You gave me hope. She stopped, took a breath, and wiped her face again. But there's more I need to tell you. More you deserve to know. Limani's voice trembled as she clutched her belly gently, her eyes glassy with tears that wouldn't stop flowing. The only real happy day I had with him was the day we wedded, she said, barely above a whisper. Just that one day. After that, everything became a nightmare. A silent war I wasn't prepared for. She sniffled, her shoulders shaking. From the moment we left for our honeymoon, I started seeing signs, ugly signs. It was like I had been pushed into a trench so deep, I couldn't breathe. He became agitated, restless, like a thief on the run. Always on edge. Checking the windows. Turning off his phone. Talking in whispers. Her eyes turned distant as if reliving each moment. He lost his peace. Ironzi. And every time I asked him what was wrong, he would grumble, bite his tongue, and mutter, "It's that stubborn girl, Iralia. She's after me. She wants to cut her own pound of flesh." She gave a bitter laugh, the kind that comes from deep hurt. For the 2 months we've been married, I can count the number of nights he actually slept at home. He was always disappearing, telling me he had to stay late at the office, but I'd later hear from neighbors that he was spotted in hotels, at parties with his shady friends, running from something, or someone. She raised her teary eyes to Ironzi. Instead of honeymoon, he gave me bitter moon. From the second day of our marriage, I started feeling like the wife of an armed robber. She placed both hands on her knees as if steadying herself. And then it happened. The crash. The one thing he feared most. Ironzi frowned. What crash? They came for him. Ironzi. The police. Last week. He was arrested. Not for theft exactly, but for unlawful possession of treasures, documents, properties, bank assets, things that never belonged to him in the first place. They traced it all back to Iralia. And now he's in custody. Ironzi exhaled slowly, eyes narrowing, thoughts racing. But he hasn't been charged yet, Limani said quickly, sensing his judgment. They're still investigating, but they will charge him soon if someone doesn't step in. She paused and clasped her hands together tightly. Her voice cracked like glass. That's why I came, Ironzi. That's why I've been calling you. Not because I want you back. Not because I want him spared for my sake. But because of this. She pointed to her stomach. My unborn child. 2 months in the womb. The doctor says if I keep crying like this, if I remain under this stress, I might lose the baby. She turned away briefly, then turned back, her voice softer, more fragile than ever. Please, please, I beg you, help me talk to Iralia. You're the only one she might still listen to. Ask her to temper justice with mercy. Ask her to withdraw her accusations, or reduce them. He doesn't have anyone else who can speak on his behalf. And as much as I hate to admit it, neither do I. Tears spilled down again as she knelt lower, her head bowed. I know I don't deserve your help, Ironzi. I know I failed you. I betrayed the only man who ever truly loved me. But I'm begging you, for the life of my child, help me stop this from destroying everything. She gasped. Oh, Ironzi, I wish you were his father. I wish I had chosen you. I swear I would have been happy. She broke into heavy sobs again, her body convulsing with every wave of emotion. Ironzi stood silent for a moment, frozen by the weight of Limani's words. But as he glanced at her trembling form on the floor, something inside him stirred. Not anger, not judgment, but a quiet, haunting ache, a memory of love once shared, a sympathy for pain now endured. Moved more by compassion than pity, he bent down slowly and lifted her up, gently, respectfully, cradling her as if she were fragile glass. Not for her, not for what they used to be, but for the life growing inside her, innocent, faultless, and helpless. She leaned into him heavily, and in that moment, Ironzi felt it, the soft, fluttering heartbeat of a child not yet born. It pulsed like a whisper against his chest, trembling with the rhythm of hope. "I'll talk to her," he whispered. "I promise. I'll talk to Iralia. For the baby. For you." But as those words left his lips, the hotel room door creaked open. And there, at the threshold, stood Iralia, her figure framed in the doorway like a goddess of wrath and heartbreak. Her eyes wide, her breath caught. The silence in the room turned electric. She stared at them, Ironsi holding Limini in his arms, her body pressed to his head bowed close. And in that instant, 1,000 words unsaid came crashing into Ironsi's heart. Her voice from days ago echoed like a drumbeat in his mind. "Keep this phone safe. You may need to sell it, to bail your friend pneumonia." Another. "Beware of husband snatchers, Ironsi. And the most haunting of all, if you betray me, I die, but remember to bury me in your heart." He stepped forward, trying to speak, to explain, but he hadn't yet disentangled himself from Limani's grip. And Iralia, lips pursed in fury and disbelief, turned sharply. Bang! The door slammed shut. The sound thudded into his soul like a cannon. But Ironsi did not chase after her. Not yet. He inhaled deeply, turned, and sat Limini gently down on the sofa, adjusting a pillow behind her back. "Be calm," he said softly. "You've done enough today. Let me do the rest." "But Iralia," Limini murmured. "I'll reach her," he replied firmly. "She listens to truth, even when it hurts." He took her hand gently. "Do you need anything? Money? Transport? Somewhere to stay?" Limini shook her head slowly. "Don't worry about me. I'll find my way back." But Ironsi insisted. "Let me do this one thing, for the baby." She hesitated, then quietly gave him her account number. Ironsi pulled out his phone, tapped a few buttons, and in seconds, a soft chime rang from her own device. Limini looked at it. Eyes widened. 500,000 Nigerian nairas. "For my little baby," Ironsi said with a small, bittersweet smile. And Limini, overcome with emotion, clutched her phone to her chest and began to cry again. Not for her mistakes. Not for her regrets. But because even after all that had happened, someone still chose kindness. By morning, the storm in Ironsi's heart had settled, but not the worry. The echo of Iralia's expression at the door haunted him like a ghost. He sat by the hotel window, watching the early sunlight push through the clouds, casting long shadows over the city's rooftops. Somewhere out there, Iralia nursed a wound too deep for bandages. Somewhere in her silence, she bled questions and burned with conclusions he hadn't earned. Ironsi picked up his phone, his thumb hesitating over the dial button. Then, finally, he called her. She picked up after the third ring. Her voice was like ice. "Yes." "Iralia," he began softly. "Please, I need you to listen to me." "I've listened enough, Ironsi," she cut in coldly. "What more could you possibly say? That it wasn't what it looked like?" He exhaled, pressing a hand to his temple. "Please. I didn't call to argue. Just to make you understand. Limeni came uninvited. She's in a mess. She needs help. And she's carrying a child that might not survive if nothing is done. I only held her because..." "I said I've listened enough," Iralia snapped. "You should stay with your mother. She's the one that truly needs you now." There was a brief pause. Then she continued, voice dropping to a hard whisper. "And let me say this, if you're still caught up with Limini, that's your choice. But don't bring me into it. Because the same way the cord between me and Laurentis was broken, cleanly, permanently, I assume the one between you and Limini should be too. Or is it not?" Ironsi's heart clenched. "Iralia, don't do this. Don't throw us away because of one misunderstanding. She's nothing to me." "Then why is she everything to your attention?" Iralia asked. Silence. Then her voice softened just enough to hurt. If you must go back to her, for whatever reason, so be it. Iralia. I'll be out of your life right away. Click. The call ended. Ironsi stared at the phone screen, the words burning into his soul. His breath caught. The silence in the room now felt like thunder, booming with what he stood to lose. The woman who once told him, "If you betray me, I die. But remember to bury me in your heart," had just walked away from him in her own grief. And all he could do now was decide whether to chase her, or let fate dig its claws in deeper. Ironsi left the hotel room with a heavy heart. The events of the past 24 hours had left him reeling, caught between compassion, confusion, and heartbreak. The moment Iralia slammed the door shut on him and Limone haunted him like a thunderclap echoing through his soul. He needed air. He needed clarity. But most of all, he needed to see his mother, the one person whose love had never wavered. The morning sun bathed the dusty village path in golden light as Ironsi approached his mother's compound. A few neighbors waved, whispering quietly among themselves, but he barely noticed. All his mind could process was the sound of his mother's frail voice, the memories of her smiles, and her painful cries echoing from the hospital bed just days ago. He pushed the wooden gate gently. It creaked like an old violin string. And then he saw her, Limone, sitting quietly on a wooden stool beside Mimai's mat, helping her massage her weak legs with warm shea butter. Ironsi froze. His heart thudded. Anger, confusion, and a flicker of emotion he couldn't name coursed through him like electricity. "What are you doing here, Limone?" he asked, barely able to control the tremble in his voice. Before Limone could speak, Mama raised her tired voice and sat up slightly on her mat. "Ironsi, my son," she began, her voice laced with both pleading and wisdom. "Don't be angry. Let me talk." Ironsi nodded slowly, eyes flickering between the two women. "Remember when you first brought Limone home?" Mima said, her eyes already misting. "Remember how you fought me when I told you she looked like a gold digger? You said love is not about wealth, it is about loyalty, and you made me believe in your dream. I let go, my son, not because I was convinced, but because I trusted your heart." She turned toward Limone, then back to her son. "Did she ever tell you I borrowed money from my cooperative society and gave it to her? She traveled all the way here, pregnant with your dreams and full of tears, telling me she wanted to start a small business to support your future together. I gave her what I didn't have. Ironsi. I just finished repaying that loan last year." Ironsi's mouth fell open. "What?" he muttered, eyes locked on Limone, who now had her face bowed, unable to meet his gaze. "You never told me this. Not even once." Before Limone could say a word, a sudden uproar erupted from outside the compound. Shouts of joy, laughter, and a chorus of "Welcome, welcome, you're welcome," filled the air. Ironsi rushed to the front window and peeked outside. It was Iralia. Descending from her SUV like royalty cloaked in humility, she was flanked by two assistants carrying boxes of goods. One after the other, his siblings began filing into the house, their hands burdened with Iralia's gifts: sacks of rice, tubers of yam, crates of milk, beverages, toiletries, flowers, oils, fruits, and cartons of non-alcoholic wine. The house transformed into a miniature market, overflowing with abundance. Mima covered her mouth, overwhelmed by the sight. "All these, for me?" "Yes, Mema," said Ironsi's younger sister with pride. "She brought everything herself." Then came the moment. Iralia walked into the house, humble, calm, yet regal in her presence. Her eyes met Limone's. Limone rose from her seat, her face now a storm cloud of embarrassment and frustration. Without saying a word, she turned on her heels and stormed out of the house. "Limone, wait!" Ironsi called, rushing after her. "Mima, I'll be right back." And with that, he dashed out, heart pounding, torn between two women, two worlds, and a decision that would define the rest of his life. In the absence of Ironsi, the room glowed with warmth. Iralia sat comfortably beside Mima on the mat, her legs tucked under her and her silk dress gracefully spread across the faded rug. There was a peace in her posture, a joy in her eyes. She gently held Mima's frail hand in hers, stroking it softly as though it were a treasure. Mima, I thank God for your healing. When I heard what happened, I prayed, fervently. And seeing you like this, laughing and strong, it's the best gift anyone could give me today, Iralia said. Mima beamed, her smile reaching the corners of her eyes. My daughter, may you never see the bed of affliction. You brought joy to my bones. The whole compound is sweet with laughter today because of you. Their laughter mixed in harmony, as if they'd known each other for many years. The house, full of gifts and voices, seemed to pulsate with grace. Suddenly, Mima squinted at Iralia with that mischievous curiosity only a mother could carry. My daughter, she began, you have brought us more blessings than some governors. Who are you, N? Are you the new ogre of my son at work? The way you packaged all these things, even the cassava flower day wear perfume. Iralia was about to answer when Bilison, Ironsi's younger brother, seized the moment like a child bursting with secret news. Mema, he began with pride, standing tall like a town crier. Let me explain who she is. This is the angel. Yes, the one God used to pay for your operation. You remember when we didn't know where help would come from? It was her. And not just that. Mema, you see the generator we use now? And is she by him? You see the new freezer? And is she again? She even gave me money to start my tailoring business last month. Mimai. This woman is not just an angel. She's the whole heaven. Mimai's eyes widened. Her mouth fell open. You mean, she did all this? For me? For us? Yes, Mema, Bilison replied, his voice full of emotion. Oh, so this is the angel I've been praying for but never seen, Mema whispered in awe. She reached for Iralia's hand and kissed it softly. Thank you, my daughter. May your rivers never run dry. May your footsteps never fall into the pit. May the child that comes from your womb be like 10 sons. Everyone laughed. But Mima wasn't done. Wait, oh, Bilison. Who exactly is she to my son, Ironsi? Is she his boss, or what? That was the only question Bilison couldn't answer. Mima, let's wait for my brother to come back. He will explain everything well. Mima wasn't satisfied. Her brow furrowed. She turned slowly toward Iralia, whose smile hadn't faded. My angel, who are you, to my son? Still holding Mima's hand gently, Iralia smiled and answered with grace. I am Ironsi's new girlfriend, Mima. The room fell silent. Mima's eyes narrowed in playful disapproval. Girlfriend? She repeated. No. I no want girlfriend for my son. I want a wife. A good wife that will rub balm on his back, cook correct soup, and shout at him when he's being foolish. The room burst into laughter again. Then Mima did something unexpected. She tilted her head and looked Iralia up and down. What's your name, my daughter? Iralia, she answered. Iralia, Mima repeated, dragging the name as though testing its weight. Do you know the meaning of your name? Iralia chuckled. No. Mima. W. The atmosphere was still charged with laughter and heartfelt prayers when Mima suddenly grew quiet. She turned slowly to Iralia, her face settling into a determined expression that silenced everyone. Then, in a voice that carried both command and affection, she asked, Iralia, will you marry my son, Ironsi? He will bring your ring when he comes back. The room froze. Bilison's mouth dropped open. The two cousins sitting at the corner almost choked on their soft drinks. Even the neighbor's toddler, who had wandered in during the earlier noise, seemed to stop chewing on his biscuit. Iralia blinked, surprised, not by the question itself, but by the sudden boldness of it. She lowered her eyes respectfully and said, Mema, I will. Only if he stops running after Limoni. That name dropped like a stone in a quiet pond. Mema sat upright like she'd been stung. She frowned, slapped her thigh, and shouted, Who is Limoni? She is a gunner. She's gone for good. She has found for herself a man after her own heart. And I'm grateful to God that my son has a better replacement in you. Iralia. Please. Marry Ironzi. He is a good boy. A very good boy. But Iralia didn't smile. She looked straight into Memai's eyes and asked, Mema, if she's gone for good, then why is she here again? Why was she with Ironzi? And why did both of them run away the moment I walked in? Memai's eyes shifted a little, caught off guard by the honesty. But the woman in her refused to back down. She lifted her chin and said, No, Iralia. You're misunderstanding the matter. She heard I was sick, and yes, she came to visit me, and to apologize for the evil she committed, by dumping my son after for years of foolish, useless relationship. Can you imagine? She spat slightly to her side as if ridding her mouth of Limani's name. Oh yes, Mema continued with growing speed. She also added that I should help her talk to Ironzi, to help her beg his boss, you, to forgive her husband for an offense she didn't even explain well. What does that tell you? Iralia's face darkened with quiet confusion and restrained rage. So now Ironzi is her last hope? She asked, almost to herself. Mema raised a finger and said, My daughter, Limeni is finished. That chapter is closed. It ended the day she threw away a diamond and picked a stone because the stone wore gold paint. Please, don't let her drama ruin the story God is writing between you and my son. Bilison nodded, whispering under his breath. Word, Mema. Mema turned again to Iralia with softer eyes. Iralia, will you marry my son? She asked again, this time placing her hand gently over Iralia's. Marry him. Let me die a happy woman. Tears welled up slightly in Iralia's eyes, but whether from emotion, confusion, or anger, it was too early to tell. She looked away, slowly drawing in a breath. Mema, let's wait for Ironzi to come back. Then we will all know where his heart truly belongs. Mema grunted in mild disappointment, but said nothing more. In the background, the clock ticked. Outside, the distant sound of Ironzi's footsteps approached, fast and heavy, like someone chasing a truth too long ignored. What do you think it means? Mema raised her finger in the air. Like a prophetess. It means, the one who walks into a storm but calms it with her presence. The one whose name will be sung in kitchens, in wedding songs, and in midnight prayers. The house clapped again, and even Iralia blushed. The atmosphere was still charged with laughter and heartfelt prayers when Mema suddenly grew quiet. She turned slowly to Iralia, her face settling into a determined expression that silenced everyone. Then, in a voice that carried both command and affection, she asked, Iralia, will you marry my son, Ironzi? He will bring your ring when he comes back. The room froze. Bilison's mouth dropped open. The two cousins sitting at the corner almost choked on their soft drinks. Even the neighbor's toddler, who had wandered in during the earlier noise, seemed to stop chewing on his biscuit. Iralia blinked, surprised, not by the question itself, but by the sudden boldness of it. She lowered her eyes respectfully and said, Mema, I will. Only if he stops running after Limoni. That name dropped like a stone in a quiet pond. Mema sat upright like she'd been stung. She frowned, slapped her thigh, and shouted, Who is Limoni? She is a gunner. She's gone for good. She has found for herself a man after her own heart. And I'm grateful to God that my son has a better replacement in you. Iralia. Please. Marry Ironzi. He is a good boy. A very good boy. But Iralia didn't smile. She looked straight into Memai's eyes and asked, Mema, if she's gone for good, Then why is she here again? Why was she with Ironsi? And why did both of them run away the moment I walked in? Mema's eyes shifted a little, caught off guard by the honesty. But the woman in her refused to back down. She lifted her chin and said, "No, Iralia. You're misunderstanding the matter. She heard I was sick, and yes, she came to visit me, and to apologize for the evil she committed, by dumping my son after 4 years of foolish, useless relationship. Can you imagine?" She spat slightly to her side as if ridding her mouth of Limani's name. "Oh yes," Mema continued with growing speed. She also added that I should help her talk to Ironsi, to help her beg his boss, you, to forgive her husband for an offense she didn't even explain well. What does that tell you? Iralia's face darkened with quiet confusion and restrained rage. So now Ironsi is her last hope? She asked, almost to herself. Mema raised a finger and said, "My daughter, Limani is finished. That chapter is closed." It ended the day she threw away a diamond and picked a stone because the stone wore gold paint. Please, don't let her drama ruin the story God is writing between you and my son. Bilisan nodded, whispering under his breath, "Word, Mema." Mema turned again to Iralia with softer eyes. "Iralia, will you marry my son?" she asked again, this time placing her hand gently over Iralia's. "Marry him. Let me die a happy woman." This is the end of the second episode of this interesting video. The third episode will soon be posted for your viewing pleasure. If you have enjoyed and learned anything in this episode, kindly let me know by subscribing to my channel. Like the video and drop your comment at the comment section. Anil.